Life is short, learn to play bluegrass guitar. That's this channel's focus. If you'd like to learn with me, there's some important links down below or just go to this website here. But in today's video, I am posing a question to all you gearheads out there, you bluegrass gearheads. Does an expensive guitar make it easier to learn how to play bluegrass or really any style of music? I want your opinions down in the comment section, and the reason why I'm bringing this question up today is because a video recently popped up in my algorithm that was an interview with bluegrass flat picker extraordinaire Chris Eldridge. You might know him from the Punch Brothers or the infamous String Dusters. Most recently, he's been playing with the bluegrass supergroup Mighty Poplar. His father also played with the Seldom Scene, was very influential in the bluegrass realm. But just a few minutes into the interview, and I'll play the portion of the clip here in just a second, Chris talks about how easy it was learning how to flat pick because of the guitar that he had in his household, or at least one of the guitars rather. And he mentions, not to take this out of context, a 1983 Martin, all right? Go check out the full interview, and I want to give full credit to this channel right here. The channel's called Playback. I'll link it below, and they've got some really cool videos that have been popping up in my algorithm featuring some bluegrass artists and that sort of thing. But let me just play this clip really fast, and then I have a story of my own to share about my recent experience buying new and better, higher quality guitars and how it's influenced my playing. But let's take a look at the clip right here.
And I was lucky. I grew up in a house with, I had a good guitar. My dad had it was this 1983 Martin. That was the 150th anniversary of Martin guitars. And anyway, so I grew up playing this good guitar, which helped,
So for those of you new here, I'm a former student of ETSU's Bluegrass and Old Time Country Music program. Back in the days when I was attending that program, I was mostly playing the dobro. I played bass. I played drums for a long time. That was my first instrument. Ironically enough, I wasn't playing a whole lot of guitar, but I still played on my own, and I played for enjoyment. And back then, and really up until the last couple years, I played the same style or make rather of guitar, and that was from Martin's DX series. All right, so these are the kind of student models, as I refer to them here. Often they ran at the time between $500 and $600. I own two of them, but after I graduated from the program, I spent really a ton of my life as a school teacher overseas. So throughout my 20s and 30s, I was traveling back and forth between Asia and Tennessee or the US. I lived in Canada for a while. And so as a product of living overseas and never really having a home base, so to speak, I never invested in more expensive guitars. I've always loved playing, but really for the longest time, that's all I played was just like really kind of inexpensive guitars. So all that being said, it wasn't until about 2 years ago when I moved back to my home state, my hometown, Knoxville, Tennessee, that I was able to really go out and buy some gear that I'd been putting off, stuff that I'd always wanted, but I didn't want to have to worry about, an airline breaking it or whatever. If you have any stories about that, definitely share those in the comment section, because I've heard some horror stories, even one from Billy Strings, like the guitar he uses now had been smashed to smithereens, it sounded like, based on an interview I heard with him. So last year, I bought a Recording King RD328. There's some videos you can watch about that. And that was really, not even a real expensive guitar, but the first all-wood bodied guitar that I ever owned. And, playing that over the span of about a year, I progressed. Like, it was hard to say that it was making playing easier. It definitely was more enjoyable. I'm big on, new gear. There's an element of how much you enjoy it and how much it's going to make you play that I think really should go into any purchase decision. But that being said, it's a great sounding guitar. I talk about it greatly, and if you're looking for a budget guitar that really packs a punch, it's not going to break your wallet, I do recommend checking that guitar out. Now, this past February, I went and bought a Martin D18, 2023 Martin D18. I did a couple videos. On how I went through the purchasing process of that. Definitely check those out here on the channel. And it's been 3 or so months since I've purchased that guitar, and I will say that It's definitely more enjoyable to play. It's a much more expensive product, at least, but I have felt my playing, my personal playing, really progress. And I don't exactly know why. It's obviously a Martin. I grew up playing a Martin, and I think there's something about coming home to it. But anyway, there's a short list here I want to go through really fast, and make sure you're putting your opinions down in the comment section as I go through this about, reasons why a more expensive guitar could influence your playing and make it easier. Okay? And the first one here, and I think this one covers the most ground, is just better hardware, all right? So one thing that I was dealing with the Recording King was just tuning issues. I could not stay in tune. Tuning stability was kind of a nightmare, and I don't think that the Martins cured all of that, but it's definitely made it easier. When I'm retuning and I'm having to tune every 30 seconds, it doesn't make playing the guitar fun, all right? So additional hardware that influences the sound would be the nut and saddle and the material that those are made of. The better material, the better the guitar should sound. Of course, the wood the guitar is made out of. I'm really big on the feel, and that's what I can't really describe here on camera. I've mentioned it in other videos. For me, there's just something about the way that Martin feels that gives me just a more enjoyable experience, all right? So I'll say this is the second one. It kind of goes into the first one, but to dive deeper into what I just said, I think the frets on the higher end guitars, the fret work is just better. You can usually tell on a cheaper guitar just by sliding over the frets if they're uneven. Maybe they're even a bit sharp. I will say that in comparison to the two guitars referenced here, the Recording King and the Martin, the two most recent purchases also just scored an orange wood. I will be doing more videos about that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. The frets seem a little bit rougher on that Recording King. You don't notice it much at the time, but then when you have something to compare it to that really is quite a bit more smooth, it makes the world of difference, right? And the third and last point I'll make here is motivation. A nicer sounding guitar that's easier to play is going to make you want to get up off the couch and grab the guitar and play it more frequently. And I think this is a huge element in my personal playing. I have been sort of a cheap ass historically when it comes to buying gear, and I'm learning that when I go out and I purchase something that I really want, if I save up the money and I justify it the right way, I'm kind of a stickler for savings and this sort of thing, but I'm learning I get a great amount of satisfaction out of the gear that I've purchased recently. It's making my life better. That's why what I flashed on the screen there at the beginning, life is short, play the guitar. I really believe in that. And so I just want your opinions here. Again, I thought the interview referenced here with Chris Eldridge was an amazing one. So check that out down in the description. Make sure you stick around the channel for more licks and bluegrass gear talk, interviews, that sort of thing. Let me know what you want to hear more of down in the comment section. And again, if you would like to start learning how to play bluegrass guitar, finally give that acoustic guitar some justice. If you've been on the internet and you think it's impossible to learn, or the lessons that are here are just too hard to follow, or maybe they're musically too in-depth, check out the links below. I hear a lot of folks say, hey, this is finally a way that like an actual beginner can start to understand what goes on in this flat picking. It's all laid out pretty slow. There's a lot of resources in there. Check it out, folks. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.